So this is a new segment of the whole Surfcraft Union. I'm here with Greg from Lay Garage. He is the shaper of seafaring surfcraft, but he is also super into these vintage boards. So I want to start a new style of segment called Heavy Glass. You're gonna love this. Looking at the past to shape the future. What do you think about that tagline?
Totally.
Oh God, I should be in TV. So for the first board, Greg, I'm just gonna let you kind of take over on this part.
Yeah, cool. So for our first board, I decided to pick my favorite board as of right now that I'm riding, and it's a Hansen Competitor. It was made in 1967. It's 9'8", 23 inches wide, only at one point though. It's pretty narrow, and it's 3 inches thick. It's a really cool board. Hansen surfboards, they started in Cardiff in California. Don Hansen has been in business for 60 years. They're still in business. They have a huge store in Cardiff. Their really popular boards were the Hansen 50/50, and the Competitor came out, I believe, right around the time that everyone was getting into nose riding. Like hot dogging was getting into the sweet spot, the curl of the wave, and just kind of like sticking a Mickey Minaj cool pose and just like
For sure.
getting down low and like trimming really well. But after that, the board started to get really foiled, and they started to blend the curves and figure out, wait, if we don't have rocker in the nose and we have all the rocker in the tail, then it'll act like an anchor and flip the nose up, and then you can stand up there all day long. So, yeah, this board is a pinnacle, I think, from the 60s, before the shortboard revolution started and everyone just started to chop these boards down literally and cut them to 7 feet. That's why a lot of vintage boards aren't around right now. But it's in that time area, they were doing something really cool with the design of boards.
Yeah, it looks. It actually looks like something that I would ride currently from, a non-vintage shape. It definitely, you can tell it has this big kick in the tail, which is definitely pretty pronounced. And then, kind of flat. We were kind of talking about it earlier, but as far as the bottom contours, what do we have going on?
So yeah, from this perspective, you can see like there's a lot of tail rocker and not a lot of nose rocker, and I came to figure out this board has a flip to blank, meaning that the nose is the tail and the tail is the nose of the blank, so that you get tail rocker and no nose rocker. And that's why it's a little bit narrower too, because they probably had to sacrifice a little bit of width to get the shape they wanted. But the bottom of this board is pretty unique, where again you can see all this tail rocker. There's a beveled rail, and it's pretty flat throughout the bottom here. And then this bevel right around here starts to sink back out to the rail line, and from here up in the nose it's just flat. It's got like, I don't even think there's a dish in there. I haven't put a level on it, but it's pretty much just dead flat, and round surfaces are gonna grab the water really well, and a flat or a concave surface is gonna reject it and push it away. So even though it's really subtle, this is the best nose riding board I've ever ridden. Longest nose rides I've ever had. Yeah, they really got it down, and you hear about like magic surfboards from that era, and they would just pass them around throughout competitions and stuff. But yeah, it's cool to think like, who rode this? It had 60 years of a life before I got it. So it's cool to see.
That's awesome. And it's in gorgeous shape.
Yeah, the fin box that was originally in it, I installed a modern Bane fin box. The original box was a friction fit, so there was no hardware that would keep the fin in place. So I'm thinking that someone just got really frustrated losing a couple of their fins and hung the board up or sold it to somebody, and it just sat for a long time. Because when I got it, it didn't have a suntan on it at all. It looked brand new.
Pristine.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, I see that you are running a 9.7 4A Greeno. What was the fin, or what style fin were they running in these?
I'm imagining that it would have been a slightly more foiled 50-50 fin.
Okay.
And if it wasn't the 50-50 fin, which is kind of a pivot fin, then the Hansen Speed Shape is what came after that. And it's similar to a Greeno, just with a much bigger tip on it.
Okay.
So I don't typically ride a Greeno in this. It's a little too big. I like smaller fins and a little bit more sensitivity. And I found a 1970 Australian cutaway fin, and it works perfectly in this board.
Awesome. I was gonna say it kind of sounds like a cutaway fin that you were explaining with the tip kind of a little bit wider here, but
narrower in the base.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely helps out.
Almost, I wouldn't say stage 6-ish.
No, but close. It's just
Cool.
not as big as that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Which is unique because a lot of boards from this era are or a lot of fins on the boards from this era are just huge glass-on D-fins. So
Yeah.
something with so much thickness to it compared to a modern fin that it stalls. It's such a different ride compared to something that can flex and move a little bit
Yeah.
with the board.
Yeah, it's almost like a big anchor.
Yeah, totally.
Sick. Well, there's a little wave down the road, so let's get a couple waves on this, and then we'll chat about it after.
Sounds good.
Sweet. All right, so yeah, Hansen. I did not get the lift because I'm not very good at nose riding backside at all. But I will tell you that it was very fun, the aspect of it. Paddled really well and really just planed into waves and just kept going in those bowly sections where I probably would have like an issue on maybe like a wider log.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun, but I saw you get some kind of insane, quick 5s and 10s, and very impressive. Just like, what's the deal with that? How are you doing this on a board that's older than most stuff on planet Earth right now?
Why does it work so good still?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's been the trip ever since I got it. I was like, wait, why? Why does this work so good? And it's the combination of all the subtle natures of the board. Like we were just saying, like, I haven't pulled numbers off of this board, I haven't pulled a template off of it, but I keep it nearby when I'm making nose riders just because the principles of this board are still highly applicable to all modern surfboards, that you're trying to get stall in the tail, lift in the nose, nice trim, fluid turning, like all those things lock in really well with this. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's taken me, I've had this for 2 years now, and I finally dialed in right where I want the fin. Like, that fin's too big for me personally. I like a little bit smaller fin that I can drift the tail, and then when you're on the nose, you can turn back into the wave and get back up the face a little bit.
Yeah.
All in all, it's a trip, and I normally ride it in bigger surf as a nose rider.
Sure, and that's something else that I could actually see that happening. Today was a smaller day, first time on a board like this. I don't usually ride boards that are, I used to ride flat boards, and now my nose riders generally have a lot more nose concave, a lot more tail kick. And this being flat, I did have a little bit of an issue, but I could see on a good, bigger lined up day, this thing would be a blast. Even for someone that doesn't necessarily have a great time nose riding, but you can surf this thing off the back and I could feel it. I had one wave where I was kind of crouched and then I stepped back and then just did this nice little pivot backside turn, and I could feel that roll just engage and the tail kick totally kick in. So it's, for what it is, it's one of the better vintage style boards that I've ever ridden. It's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's, like all things, there's subtleties about it you gotta figure out. For a while I would ride roll bottom boards or flat nose boards. I learned to surf on vintage longboards as the first thing I surfed, so I didn't really know anything different. So I got used to that fast nose ride feel, where you're not really getting that slow down but just lift and levitate, like buoyancy off the nose. So when I stepped onto something that really dragged on the back, but you still had that plane in the front and that just shot off on a high line, it was like a good marry of both of those worlds for sure. It just showed me you don't have to have all these crazy features in a board to make it magic. Like, the only thing different from modern surfboards is that the tail's maybe an inch wider. And if you bump that out and made this exact board again, it would ride like a Bing or a Takayama or like anything like that. Yeah. It's interesting.
I mean, your brother was out with us today and he's an amazing longboarder, and to see him go from this board to the Continental that he's riding, I'm sure he felt a big difference, but both look really smooth, and that says a lot.
Totally. Yeah, I went back and forth, and that was the second time I've ridden his Continental or any Continental, and that's the main thing I felt was the wide point being much further forward on this board, and the tail being so wide on the Continental that you're popping up a lot earlier because it's in the wave a little bit earlier. You feel all of that drag behind you already.
Sure.
This, you have to get it in past this wide point, and then you're up and at the races, and you can run up to it. So sick. It was really fun. Definitely looking forward to more adventures like this.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do this a lot. I hope you guys dig what this is all about, and I want to do something different. I want to do something that kind of gets into all of the past designs, and the one person that I know that really knows his shit is Greg. So you're killing it. So
fun, man.
Yeah,
we didn't
man.
even get into the history of all this stuff. We'll do that another time.
Yeah.
Why we're still riding these things. You know?
Yeah, totally. We will, for sure. So please comment, like, all that jazz. Follow Lay Garage and check out Seafaring Surfcraft as well. Peace.